If you've got clothes in your wardrobe right now, then you actually might be a lot closer to starting a business than you think. I took this Armani jacket right here, this old jacket out of my wardrobe, and I turned it into a 7-figure e-commerce business. And in this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how I did it. Now look, today I'm going to break down the exact steps that I followed, just so you can fully understand how a business like this works. And look, I'm not sharing this information to flex. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I'm hoping that you can just take away some inspiration from it. If there's one thing, one piece of information that you pick up from this video that you can take with you, then it's going to be worth the time watching it. Look, I'm going to break down the exact blueprint that I followed to do this. I figured things out along the way like most people do, but you can copy and paste exactly what I did, learn from my mistakes, and just copy a formula that's already worked. 7 years ago, I had zero experience in business whatsoever. I had no money, I had no connections, I had no secret family connections. I wasn't one of these kids who could go get £50,000 to start a business from my dad. You know, I started from zero and I honestly had no clue what I was doing. Like zero clue. Didn't know anything about business, anything about making money. I was starting at true ground zero. And I started doing real gritty hustles. Like, I'm talking collecting scrap metal, like driving past some metal people leave at the side of the road that they want to get rid of. Collecting it all together and then going and weighing that metal in. You know, in my eyes it was free money, but not the best side hustle you can do, that's for sure. I was selling cigarettes, I was working on market stalls, I was selling old clothes. I was just doing anything that I could to make money, anything at all. Because I had no idea what business I wanted to start or how to even get into it. I just knew that I needed some money. So the story starts back in 2017 and I was 17 at the time, right? I was still living at my dad's house and I just left college, but I needed a job. I'm applying for jobs online, stuff like JD Sports, stuff like working in a merchant centre, stuff like just any retail jobs, like easy to get jobs that you'd think you could just walk into. You know, I had all the bullshit they tell you need on your CV, all this type of stuff. Applying for the jobs, not really getting anywhere. I actually ended up getting a job at a call centre. Now, this call centre, it was about 20 minutes on the bus away from where I lived. So it didn't take long to get there at all. Wore a suit and stuff like that, but I remember I was just... The call centre, it was like... You remember when IP claims or PPI claims were popular? It was a similar thing. So it was actually selling mis-sold package bank accounts. Selling people the ability to get some money back because the package bank accounts were mis-sold. But you got to imagine it like this, right? You're calling up elderly women, mostly Karens, right, in the middle of the day. Soon as you mention bank account, you're cooked. You are absolutely cooked. So I've been ringing up these old women all day. I've been talking through this massive script. They'd let you get to the end of the script and then they'd hang up the phone on you. So you're just constantly saying this script over and over again. And I was in this job and I was just like, this can't be it. You know, shit money. I remember I showed up, I was a bit embarrassed to be there. Like, it was a shit job. And to be fair to them, as much trash as they talked, like they did actually get some money back for people doing that, but you know, it was just one of those like schemey type of businesses to be working for, and you know, it didn't last long, and I knew that I couldn't be doing it like this. And they ended up moving the office after a couple of weeks, and I had to get the bus 2 hours back home, and yeah, so I didn't do that job for long, but that was my first like actual job. I'd had jobs as a kid and stuff like that, but as like a, you know, 17, 18, that was my first like actual job. So I gave that a go. It wasn't for me. I thought, you know, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a better way to do this. So, you know, I'm searching how to make money. You know, I felt like a loser working at that call centre. You know, I was just like, I need to get out of there. It's a good job they moved the call centre because it just made it so I couldn't be there anyway. But you know, I'm seeing people moving into jobs and going to university at the time. Like, I was at that age where everyone was going and doing things. I never really had that guidance to go like decide what to do. Never really wanted to go to uni, but I didn't know anything about it. Didn't have a trade, didn't have any skills whatsoever, and I was just thinking to myself, like, what am I going to do here? I can't even get like a normal retail job in JD. I'm just thinking to myself, like, how can I start making money? And I'm watching people go to different universities. I'm watching people start new jobs, and you know, I'm on Instagram, and everyone seems to be doing stuff, and I'm sort of just, you know, I'm on my own, just trying to figure things out, right? And you know, as mad as it sounds, I didn't know anybody in the same situation. Like, everyone had got into something. It was like watching everybody living life, and I wasn't really living. So I'm looking around. getting rejected from every job I'm applying to. I don't understand why, because I've got all the things to tell you need on your CV. Work experience as a kid, all the not all the GCSEs, but I had a few. You know, I was just everything not going well. And, you know, at this time, I knew nothing about making money online. Absolutely zero. Like, you know, like you see on YouTube now, there's every, like, broccoli-haired 17-year-old kid talking about drop shipping and flipping AI OnlyFans and bullshit like this and crypto and like... Back then, none of this were around. I mean, there was people doing dropshipping and stuff like that in 2017, but like these were the very early heads. Like you had to be lucky to come across a YouTube video. It's not like now where there's just 1,000 kids talking about every single hustle and you're sort of deciding like, oh, is this the best one? Shall I do that? Like everybody knows all the main hustles now. Everybody knows about e-commerce. Everybody knows about trading. Everyone knows all of the hustles. But back then it wasn't like that. You know, when you're from a small town, people are not making money online. I didn't know anybody making money online. I'd never really heard of it. You know, I knew about selling on eBay and stuff like this, but I didn't really view it as making money online, even though it is. So, you know, I started doing what I used to do when I was younger. I started working on the markets, right? My dad's a market trader. I was asking him, can I start doing my own market stalls, right? So I'd buy the stock off him and go do market stalls. I'd go to Leeds in Briggate, that's in a place in northern England, and then a place called Otley as well. And I'd go around these markets, working on a weekend, working through the week, and I was, you know, making a little bit of cash. It was all right. I enjoyed it, you know. I'm hustling. I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm making a little bit of money, but I'm wanting more. Like I'm thinking, how can I make more? Because I'm sort of limited to how much I can earn. Because even though I'm technically like self-employed and working for myself, you're limited to how many people are coming past your store, right? So I used to do this stall in Leeds on Briggate. And Briggate is like the main strip of shops in Leeds. Like every city centre will have the main street of shops. In Leeds, that street is Briggate, and you've got things like Harvey Nichols, you had things like Size at one point, you've got things like House of Fraser, you've got things like Marks and Spencer's and Zara and McDonald's. All these things are on the main street, and I used to do a market stall on this main street on a weekend, and my stall would be outside Harvey Nichols, right? Literally Harvey Nichols straight in front. And I'd stand on this stall all day long. And I was selling eggs, right? I was selling fresh produce, okay? Decent. I'd walk away with 100 quid, 120 quid. You know, I used to get little comments about it off people, but I was earning more money than them, right? It were only a little bit of money, but, you know, I was a young kid at the time. I'm selling on this market stall, and I'm just watching people all day walking in and out of Harvey Nichols with bags, shopping bags. And these are people that are my age. And I remember looking at it and just thinking, like, what the fuck have I ended up doing? To be sat here working, selling stuff for £3 at a time, and they're not working and spending hundreds of pounds on stuff, right? You know, you've got to think, right? I'm seeing people my age walking out with designer stuff in their bags. And I was just sort of thinking to myself, what's this about? And it sort of got me thinking, like, that shop's making a lot of money right there, and I'm looking for ways to make money, and I'm trying to bridge the gap, you know. I'm trying to bridge the gap. I'm making some money, but I'm trying to figure out like how can I make it more. Look, I was like 18, and all the other vendors were like 50 plus. I was chilling with the old people basically, and everyone my age was off doing just like normal 18, 19-year-old stuff through the day, going shopping and that. And I used to feel a bit embarrassed about it, right? I used to feel like a bit of a loser, because I'm working all the time, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, how is it that they have this money and I don't? Yeah, I'm working all the time. You got to think, I'm getting pissed off. They're buying Moncler for £400, £600, and I'm selling eggs, £3. Right, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? Something needs to change here. Weeks are going by, and I'm still on the market, and I'm still thinking to myself, like, you know, I'm watching people go in and out outside this shop, and I'm in these fingerless gloves and this like long black coat, right? And I'm just taking little bits of money, and I'd come away with £100 profit, £150 profit, some days £80 maybe, but quite consistently decent money, more than I'd be getting in a job. So I was walking away happy, right? And I was pocketing the cash, right? But I'm watching people all day come out of this shop, and I'm thinking, I need to sell what they're selling. The proof is in the pudding. I've seen that people buy it, and I know for a fact people are spending per purchase in there more than I'm earning per day. And that's what really like got me thinking at that point. And at this point, I've got a few £100 to my name, not a lot of money at all. Like, I've never had a job really. I had like little jobs when I worked at school. Like, I had two jobs when I was at school actually. One of them working for my dad, I got paid like £3.15 an hour after school, family business, what are you gonna do? And then I worked in a call centre as well. I got like £5-6 an hour. So I never really had much money at all. I had a few £100, and you know, I wanted to start getting into this. And I'm starting to think like, what can I sell? And I went through my wardrobe and I thought, right, well, I'll start by selling my own stuff, right? And I took this Armani jacket, that one I just showed you. I had it in my wardrobe. This Armani jacket right here. See if that focuses. So a decent, smart little jacket. Just had it in my wardrobe, didn't really wear it too much. And I thought, you know what, I'll sell that. Pulled it out, put it on that white sheet. It was like a nylon cloth. And I just thought that that's going to make it look a little bit better for the photos. So I folded it on top of this. I took the picture, I listed it on eBay. Next day I'm on the market stall, right? And, you know, I'm selling, I'm buying and selling. And, you know, next thing you know, sales notification, jacket sold. And I think it was like, it was 80 or 100 quid. But I remember it sold within 24 hours, right? So I'd listed it at night and it sold in the afternoon. That's where I really got a light bulb moment. That's where I really realised, like, wow, this is making money online, because I'd sold on these platforms before. I'd always bought and sold bits as a kid, right? But it wasn't until I was swapping my time for money, essentially, where I really understood the impact and the leverage that making money online brings you, and the opportunity in it. Because I'm stood there all day for 100 quid. I've almost made 100 quid by selling something online. I went like this, took a few photos, and it sold. And that really got me thinking, like, wow, well, if I can sell 1-2 items per day on there, and I can do this stall as well, then I'm earning double the money for the same amount of work. I wasn't looking to build a business doing it at the time. I was just looking to make some extra money, right? I wasn't viewing it as like, I'm going to turn this into the biggest business ever. But I really discovered making money online. That's where I bridged the gap. That's where I viewed it as something different, because I realised the leverage of it. So now my mind's working in overdrive, right? I feel like I've discovered something. I've finally like found a way to make money. I'm just driving around all day looking for opportunities to make money. You know, I'm delivering to cafes, I'm going to markets, I'm going to outlet stores, I'm going to car boot sales, I'm going to shops, I'm going to TK Maxx, I'm asking people I know. I'm searching it on the internet, I'm watching videos, I'm reading books, I'm just trying to learn information and find ways that I can make money. I'm looking everywhere, whatever it is I'm doing. And over this next 6-month period, I found a few hustles, one of them being scrap metal. I realised I could pick metal up and weigh it in, get a bit of cash. One of them was outlet stores, one of them was buying and selling cigarettes, one of them was buying and selling my old clothes. You know, all these things I'm just trying to do as much as possible, and you know, it was very messy, but I was coming home with a few $100 a day. I was making decent money. People made the little comments, but I just thought, fuck you. You know, you laugh now, we'll see who's laughing later, right? I started saving this money, and I was just buying more stuff when I could. And this 6 months, like, absolutely hustling out of this van. You know, I had a van for the market, this like £800 silver Renault Kangoo, like an old little silver van, my first vehicle. And I put 40,000 miles on in the first year, because I would just drive around all day long, like dropping off, going places, picking stuff up, sticking stuff in the back of it, just like pure hustle mode. If I could go on YouTube and watch some of the videos that are on there now about making money online, would I be doing that? Probably not. But back then, like I said, the information wasn't really around. I didn't have anybody to ask. I didn't know about it. I didn't understand the opportunity. Now it's like well known, everybody's at it. Back then it wasn't like that, right? So that's a big difference. So I'm buying and selling. I'm buying a lot online. I'm selling a lot on eBay. Selling random stuff. I'm selling outlet stuff, golf stuff, clothes, shoes. I'm selling air fresheners. I'm selling stuff that you can put in your garden. I'm selling weights. I'm selling hair clippers. I'm selling anything that you can get for low and sell for higher. I'm selling it, right? Selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace if the box is too big, or if it's weights. I'm selling stuff on eBay. I'm selling stuff on Depop. And all of a sudden, wasn't that I was making the most money in the world? I was making maybe £1,000 in profit, £2,000 in profit a month. But I was making it from my bedroom. Like, all the stock was in my bedroom. It's literally stock at the end of my bed, and I'm making £1,000 a month, £2,000 a month. You know, at the time, that was better than having a job to me. It really was. It was much better to have a job, because I could set up my time. I wasn't answering to anybody, and You know, I was making money for myself, and when you do that at a young age, right, it builds a lot of confidence. Definitely builds a lot of confidence, which is definitely like a lucky thing that I had at a very early age. You know, figuring out to make money for yourself, it's a good feeling, and you carry it through your life. It didn't take me that much work. You know, I had stuff that I was doing in person that did take a lot of work, but I just added it all together because I was doing so much stuff. And the thing is, what I realised is when you do this process, like whether you're trying to take £100 and turn it into 150, or you're trying to take 10 grand and turn it into 15 grand, the process is the same. And what I soon came to realise is that the only thing stopping me from turning 10 grand into 15 grand is just me having the capital for the stock. So with the flip, unlike any other business model, I took that money that I made from the jacket and I bought more stock. So if you sell a jacket for £100, you buy more stock and you sell that for 150, you take the 150, you buy the stock, you turn it to 220, you take the 220, you turn it to 300. And it's like a money tree in a cycle. That is the flip. That is the arbitrage. That's the basics of it. That's the fastest way that you can turn a little bit of money into a lot, as I'm going to share with you soon. So I just took that same principle and I just did the same thing over and over and over again. And that was the new goal. I was just trying to do it at a larger scale. Trying to do the same stuff I was already doing, just doing it at a larger scale. So I was just in all-out hustle mode, moving relentlessly, like doing a lot, to be honest, doing a lot. Moved from my stuff from my room into my dad's cellar. He had like an old cellar. It was very old and damp down there. Didn't use it for anything, so I went down there, I cleaned it. I started pretty much living out of there all day and night. I'm just down in that cellar, either listing items or shipping items on eBay or Depop, and I'm just selling stuff over and over and over again. I'm trying to improve the lighting, the photos. I'm trying to learn about e-commerce. I'm just trying to learn business. I'm learning about making money. I'm watching Grant Cardone. I'm watching Gary Vee. I'm watching a lot of these guys just trying to piece things together. Like, I honestly had no clue. You know, it seems obvious now, but it's simple maths. Like, it's common sense how that works, right? It's common sense how it works. You can see the pattern. It's just a mathematical equation, right? I'm starting to figure out these platforms. Like, as soon as I'm making real money on them, I'm starting to figure out how they work, you know. I'm piecing it together. I'm listing hundreds of items. I'm selling a lot. I'm finding the problems. I'm finding the ways that I can charge more money. And what I came to realise is that most sellers on these platforms, Vinted, Depop, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, they're lazy. They just post photos, they're in a rush, they don't value the item, they want to get it rid of, they don't care how much money they're spending. So what you get is, you get lazy listings with bad photos, poor descriptions, shit customer service, and priced incorrectly, right? So I saw a little gap where I thought to myself, if I start acting like an actual business, I talk nice to the customer, I take better photos, I show more photos, I describe the product more accurately, I maybe accept returns, I ship faster, all these things, I can actually sell the products for higher. So I would tend to sell the products for like 20, 30, 40, 50% more than most people, right? I'd even go on these platforms and buy stuff and then resell it back on the same platform. And that really taught me one of the main lessons I ever learned about e-commerce. Like, it's all in the perception and it's all in how you position the product, and you can charge two different prices for the exact same thing. So now the market I was operating in, I was automatically 20 to 30% better off than anybody else, just because I knew how to sell it. Right, I knew how to sell it on these platforms. And people think that eBay is some sort of joke, or Depop or Vinted is some sort of joke, but people have financial freedom off these platforms. And I'm not talking about £100,000 a month in profit, right? But I'm talking about they're not having to go to work a job because they're selling 4 items a day. And when you phrase it like that, you think, well, maybe I should take this a little bit more seriously. And I really did see that opportunity, because you're able to sell to a large audience of people, but you don't have to generate the traffic. You know, if you start your own business and your website, you've got to generate the traffic. That's the hard and expensive part. So these platforms do all that for you, and it basically means that normal people can get financial freedom off these platforms. And that realization really made me, you know, go all in at this. And when I did start focusing like that, and I started thinking about that a lot more, I went from making 1 to 2 grand in profit to 5 to 7k a month in profit, right? Now, granted, I was trying to hard scale at the time, so all that money was going straight back on stock. I wasn't keeping the money, I wasn't living a flash lifestyle, I was reinvesting the money. But I was trying to grow it, right? If I wanted to take some money out and I wanted to stay at a similar level, I could have done, but I didn't want to do that. That's not for me. I'm sort of hitting a sticking point, because now I'm selling 10 to 15k a month in sales, not profit, right? And it's all from my house. You know, I'm still living at my dad's. I'm in the cellar. 10 to 15k on these platforms. It's great, but you know, you're spending 2 to 3 grand in selling fees at the time. And I just sat and I thought to myself, what could I do with that 2 or 3 grand extra? Like, I could build a website, I could get an office, I could move out. Like, if I just get away from these selling fees, then I can start doing things in a different way. One thing I came to realise is like I need to stop the multiple hustles. Like it's getting to the point when it's just not smart anymore. I'm trying to run an online business and I'm driving around doing all this random shit. I'm meeting people at 10 p.m. at night to sell them a packet of cigarettes. I'm making £2 on. Like I had to fix up. So I needed to niche down, and I just niched down into something that I knew, something that was going good at the time, and something I had access to. And this changes, right? At the time I went for shoes and clothes. This were when shoes were reselling and trendy, and I did start selling those a little bit because I was selling everything, right? I was selling everything. If there were money in it, I was selling it, but that wasn't actually my main focus. I was just picking what I knew. Like I knew clothes, I was interested in clothes, and I'd always wanted to wear designer clothes as a kid. I knew a lot about them. I used to watch them all on the internet. I loved shoes, all this type of stuff. So naturally, it was for me to go into that, right? And that's what I would suggest to anybody. Just pick what you already know, an industry you already know. It's like now, for example, that live shopping is trending now. If you go on Whatnot, people are selling tens of thousands of items on there. If I was doing this now, then I would be on Whatnot, right? You just go with the trends. And if you catch the trends at the right time, you can ride it like a wave, and there's always a new trend. So it's not about like, oh, I can't resell because there's no shoes anymore. Like the shoe game's finished. But there's different pockets that have opened up. Like trends change all the time. It's your job to find those. But when you know what you're looking for, you can find them and you can make profit in those times. So I decided to myself, like, right, I need to set up an Instagram page and build my own website and sort of try and build my own traffic source and stop paying all this money in the fees. I need to build something for myself if I really want to take it to the next level. If I want the office, if I want to stop working 24/7, you know, you got to think I'm making money, but I'm working all the time. I don't really have much of a life, because I'm trying to figure things out and I'm really stressed, and I'm feeling shit about where I'm at, even though I'm doing decent, because this is the only thing I've got going in my life right now. I didn't know anything about it. I was learning it all out myself, and I wish I could sit here and tell you like I figured it all out when I was 19 years old, but I didn't, you know. Because I was moving onto Instagram and I didn't really understand it properly. There was an ad that I kept seeing, and it was this guy called Nathan Chan, and I used to see him on my feed all the time. And I used to see him on YouTube. I used to see his ads, and he works for this company, or he owns this company called Founder, and it's like Founder without the E, it's like Founder. And they used to sell programs, and one of the programs was actually marketing on Instagram, and I remember buying that program. I think it was about 500 quid at the time. You know, this was a few years ago, and I remember buying that program. And then I started building out my Instagram, and I started looking at it a lot differently, and I built a strategy, and you know, I was able to grow pretty fast on there, like how I dealt with customers. It taught me so much, and because I was moving on to this new revenue channel, I was able to learn really fast off it, and then I was able to make a lot of money off it really quickly, right? It felt like a lot of money at the time, like I was investing in this thing I didn't really know about, but it really helped me make decent money, and that's what sort of helped me grow my account properly and helped me really grow this business properly, because at the time I was in the predicament where I was making money but I was buying a lot of stock. I didn't really have the ability to spend loads of money advertising, right? I needed to find a way I could get customers for free, and you know, on advertising you're going to be spending thousands. So if I could go and get this Instagram channel working and it was free, it meant that I had a new pipeline of customers to my business because I had the stock to sell. I sort of went from randomly figuring things out to actually following a blueprint. Like it was actually like a strategic plan that I now had, and that really did help me a lot, right? Because I knew that the people I was learning off had already been there and done it, and I was just learning real fast because I didn't have anyone in e-commerce that I knew at the time. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't know anyone doing what I was trying to do. I'd never come across it. I'm from like a small town, me, so I never ever came across it, never heard of it. And back then, really, there weren't many people making money online anyway. Like, everybody now is on Instagram. People didn't even used to post content, you know? It was a very, very different time, right? You know, I went from having no followers on Instagram, not making any money with it, to doing loads of transfers through bank transfer and PayPal, and having this completely organic way of making money, this low-risk way of making money. That's what I learned off this guy, and it made me realise, like, you know, the information that I do not know is costing me money every single month. Because if I'd have done that 6 months ago, I'd have made a few grand a month for 6 months straight. So it really did cost me a lot of money not doing that. And that were a really important lesson for me right there. I was selling on Instagram, I'm making money, but there's a few problems. Like, people don't want to always do bank transfer. It's not really like how a legit business runs, is it? So I knew that I needed to make a website, but I was putting it off. Like, I didn't know how to do it. Every time I got on there, it overwhelmed me, to be honest. I had no idea what to do, nobody to ask. So I was putting it off, you know. But I was growing the Instagram, I was doing cash meets. Nobody knew me was running it, like even people I knew. Nobody knew I was doing it. Like, a few of my friends knew what I was doing, but they thought I just sold like 1 pair, 2 pairs a week. You know, they thought it was just like some side hustle. But I'm making good money off this, and nobody knows. You know, I'm keeping it very much to myself, which I do recommend for people. Just keep your stuff to yourself, let it all grow, and then they can be surprised, right? I'm procrastinating for months. I feel overwhelmed. You know, I'm missing tens of thousands of pounds because of this, by the way, because I'm just not taking action. I'm missing out on money because I am not taking action. But the answer is always take action, even when you're unsure. And finally, I don't know what made me finally get into grips with it, but I finally did it. Launched the first website, absolutely dog shit. Weren't making much money off it. You know, it wasn't built properly, all this type of stuff. Knew nothing about e-commerce, right? It wasn't like you can use AI Builder on a Shopify now. It wasn't anything like that. So finally got the website. I'm learning Google Ads. I'm learning website building. I'm learning branding. I'm learning SEO, I'm learning conversion rate optimization, I'm learning all these skills that you need. You know, you don't need to do all these. It's only if you want to really scale up hard, you need to start looking at things like that. But that's later down the line, right? Started realizing like email marketing should be doing 35% of my sales. I kept hearing this everywhere, 35%, 35%. So bought this program off this guy on YouTube who specialized in Klaviyo email marketing. I forgot his name, but I bought it off him, and again, making $2,000 a month on extra on my email marketing. I was like, oh shit, I've been missing out on a lot of money with this, you know? And it was like every single month I was just learning a new skill and like unlocking a different income level. I was learning a new platform and unlocking a different income level. And this wasn't massive jumps, right? I wasn't going 10 grand to 20 grand. It was like $1,000 a month at the time, $2,000 a month. But because I saw the progress, like that feeling that you're making progress, it's addictive, you get a lot of confidence from it, and you know, you're just able to start like really getting in that groove and that motion of building your business, right? Now I'm sort of like learning this same aspect of opening up on multiple channels, and this is what I recommend to everybody, right? Highly recommend this. So eBay was its own channel, Instagram was its own channel, email marketing was its own channel, Google results was its own channel, Depop was its own channel. I wasn't just trying to sell on one, I was trying to sell on them all, because that's maximum exposure, right? I was trying to sell everywhere. And when you're a new person selling online, this is an important thing to do. Things started getting real crazy, right? I'm selling on multiple platforms, I'm buying more stock, I'm losing a little bit of money on stuff, but majority of the time I'm making really good money. I'm making money on most things that I buy. I'm learning a lot of skills, it's growing every month, new things are happening, I'm keeping to myself, I'm keeping quiet about it. You know, I remember even one time, which is mad really, considering like how many months I struggled to like even make any money. I didn't know what to do, I couldn't get a job, right? I was embarrassed about where I worked. Yeah, look, it's not like I had £1 million in my bank account, right? That's not what I'm saying. But I was making more than I was spending by a little bit every single day. So I was spending about £1,000 a day because that's the only stuff that I could get my hands on, right? But I was trying to buy as much as possible. But I was making just above that per day. So for months I was just trying to spend this money. And if I could spend 10 grand in a day, I would. Because I'm making more money on the stock that I'm buying at the time, right? I had the channels, I'd built the channels to sell it. I'd figured out how these platforms work. I had multiple channels. You know, I understood the financial discipline, like I'd figured that out, how to grow my money, how to grow the little bit of money. And I was just repeating the same stuff, flip, over and over again. And it's just mad, it got to that point. I had about a grand, 1.3k coming in a day, and I was spending £1,000 a day, right? So it was just crazy to be not able to spend that balance down, right? Spending money used to be a big issue for me. You know, when you work in class, you get brought up on this mindset of like, oh, save money. You know, save your money, save the pennies, the pounds will work for you. All bullshit, right? I started reading these books, I started watching these videos online, I started learning about financial literacy, and what I realised is, like, rich people don't save money like that, right? you're getting taught to be frugal since a kid, and I used to be guilty of that, right? But the more money that you spend, the more capital that you have working for you, the more money that you can make back. So it's actually the complete opposite of what you're told, right? Just like when you look at the food pyramid, it's just bullshit. It's what you're taught as a kid, right? Like cereal, sugary cereals made its way onto the food pyramid. Like, it's just a complete scam. A complete scam. And you know what? You see a lot of these guys on YouTube from wealthy backgrounds and stuff like this. Like, middle class and upper class have this information passed down, but you know, for working class people, like, how they think about money is completely wrong. And that's what I learned. That was like a life-changing lesson right there, because I was really frugal, and I was really bad with money, as in, like, I would save all my money, but I wouldn't save it and invest it, right? Well, buying assets is an investment. To me at the time, buying stock was an investment, right? Buying a new laptop was an investment because it'd make me money. Buying stock was an investment because I could make money on the stock, right? A subscription was an investment because it was an asset that could make me more money. Like, buying a book is an investment because you're buying information that gets you more money. Like, all these things are investments. And what I realised is rich people, some people will be watching this and thinking, oh yeah, well, we know that. Well, at the time, I didn't fucking know that. I didn't know that. What I realised is it's actually the more money that I spend, the more money that I make. But it's spending money on assets, spending money on things that make you money. So I sort of like combined this like frugal working class mindset with the going all out on assets, Grant Cardone style spending, right? So I remember I went to like a Stone Island sample sale event one time, and I've told this story on this channel before loads of times, but if you're new here, it'll be a new one for you. And I actually spent $9.5 on Stone Island stuff, right? This is what level of stock I was buying all the time. I'd like spend $9.5, no problem, if it was an asset. But then when it came to, we were on the way home in the car, I were in this Beamer, we're driving back from London, pulled over at the service station, we're in Burger King. KFC, sorry. No, it was Burger King. And I'm stood there at the self-checkout, and I'm downloading the Burger King app to get my lunch for £2 off. And it's sort of like that, that idiot level working class frugality kicking in. If you're spending $9.5 on assets, you're allowed to get the Burger King for full price. It's not going to be a big issue. But this is an issue that I genuinely had. And, some people are so frugal, it's a mental health issue. And those people, they're frugal all their life, and it's just not how money works. Like, it's financial literacy 101. Spending money on assets, that's just how it works. That's how it grows, right? Massive, massive discovery. Like, learning that changed my life. I viewed the world differently. I never saw a sharper increase in my income than after I learned that lesson. I built this entire thing that we're talking about in this video off of that lesson. So if you take one thing away from this video, if you're from a working class background and maybe you've got that mindset about money, it's fake. It's fucking fake. You've got to spend money to make money. And don't be looking for this like businesses to start with zero. Like, you can do, but don't demonize spending money. Spending money is a good thing. Buying stock's a good thing. Investing in yourself is a good thing. Investing in a business is a good thing. At this time, this is when shoes started really reselling like mad, like rare shoes. And I used to go queue up because it didn't conflict with my markets. It didn't conflict with the outlet times. It didn't conflict with my nighttime hustles. It didn't conflict with my eBay, so it was just another side hustle I could add on. So I'm running like 6-7 side hustles, to be honest. Start buying and selling shoes, It's just another avenue I'm making money from. We were trending at the time. I wasn't really going super hard at it, but I used to start selling shoes. I actually branded my business around shoe reselling. However, now nobody actually knows this, but I, for a very long time, focused all my attention on sportswear because I used to make more money off the sportswear, right? Because what you got to think is when something's trending, cool, you can make money off it, the price can go like that, you can make good profit, blah, blah, blah. Great. But when everybody's trying to go right, you want to go left, right? When something's trending, everybody's trying to buy it. Everybody's trying to move into it. So what you're doing is you're going into a market where there's a lot of hype, but what you're also doing is going to a market where there's a lot of competition. Now there is a way that you can handle that, and the way that I went about it is I'm going to offer more service. Same principle we learned, right? Same principle we learned on the eBay stuff. Get something, sell it better. If you're in a crowded market, there's still room for the best, but you've got to sell it better. You know, I just added more service, I added returns, I added rewards, I added better customer service, faster shipping, more premium photos, better photos, buy now, pay later options, more payment options, PayPal, Klarna, ClearPay, Laybuy, PayPal Finance, PayPal Credit, crypto, Google Pay, Amazon, everything, right? Just trying to do everything to have a better service, a much better service. You can compete that way, but the margin for me was on the sportswear and nobody knew how to sell it. Now, by me creating this brand and sort of finding a way to do this value gap thing where we're creating gaps of value, right? I was able to go get stuff from the outlet stores, and whilst everyone else was selling on eBay, I was able to go sell it on my website for retail price and with all the margin there because it was fully organic. Right, so I was taking stuff at maybe like 15 quid, selling it for 80 consistently, like every day. And like people were buying shoes for 200 quid and selling them for 250, right? And then having all the transaction fees on top. So for me, I was really printing money. I was thinking to myself, like, am I in a different universe? This is fucking unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. And like jackets, sportswear jackets, like golf stuff, right? I used to get some golf stuff. I remember I got these Jordan golf shoes one time, paid £17.50, sold them for £4.30. You know, I once got an Adidas jacket I sold for £400, I paid £12 for. Like, I used to get little crazy finds like this all the time, but, you know, the lesson in this, the skill that I learned was being able to identify something for a low cost and then present it to a market and in a way that gets the maximum value for it. So whilst everyone else, one, doesn't know where to get stuff from, everyone else also doesn't know how to sell it, right? So they're sort of operating at this, buy this, sell here, very risky. If it doesn't sell, they can't reduce it. I'm operating here, buy low because I know where to get it from and I know how to spot value gaps and then sell it like this. So ultimately, you're creating that gap. And this is how you can build a business on these platforms. That's it explained. That's what I came to realise. So, you know, I was making money off the boring stuff. I was letting everyone else sell the rare stuff that everybody wants. I was building my brand around it because I knew it was trending. I could go on social media with it. I could also sell it. And, you know, it was trending at the time, so I did it. But I did majority of my sales through, you know, other stuff. And I was still on eBay. But I moved into my first office, right? Came clear to me that if I wanted to level up, I need to move into somewhere where I've got my own space and I can store stuff better and it's more legit and you've got an address and you can get deliveries from the postman and all this type of stuff, collections from the postman and this type of stuff, right? So, you know, this is an area called Bradford. This is in the north of England. Very prestigious, luxurious place, as I'm sure everyone will tell you, right? But, you know, I'm in Bradford. The good thing about it is the rent's cheap. I'm paying 300, 400 quid a month at a time for an office, which are about 900 square foot, decent space. I had a lot of stuff in there. So I went into this office. You know, now I'm seeing consistent money every single month. I'm seeing 15, 20k consistently, right? Some months 20, you know, some months 20 something in sales, bearing in mind. I'm thinking to myself, like, right, if I really fucking focus on this, now I've got my own space as well, I can make some serious money with this. I can really grow this properly. Realize if I want to make that 25, that 30, that 35, that 40, that 50k a month in sales, then I need to learn the skill of e-commerce properly. And Depop and eBay is e-commerce. By the way, Vinted is e-commerce. E-commerce means electric commerce, selling online. But obviously there's levels to it, right? One area that I spotted was the fees that I was paying on these platforms. So I'm doing, you know, 15, 20k a month in sales and I'm paying 2, 3, 4, 5 grand in fees. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, if I put that fees into ads, if I put that fees into stock, if I put them fees into a member of staff, like, I'm going to make a lot more money off that. I'm going to get a lot more value from it. And, you know, this is one of people's first points when it comes to selling on these platforms. Like, oh, what about the fees? Well, yeah, but you've got to think, like, they make a website for you, they get your customers for you, they handle the transaction for you. Yeah, you've got to make fees, but if you're getting annoyed by 3, 4, 5 grand a month in fees, it means that you're making a lot of fucking money. So it's a good problem to have, right? But if you want to scale it, you can get more leverage at that point if you take it onto your own, right? But you've then got to create the traffic sources. So I'm learning e-commerce properly, right? And I didn't know a single other person who were running e-commerce. Didn't have anybody to ask. I was completely on my own. And you know, I'll be honest, I was struggling, man. I was making money, but that was my life. Like I didn't have anything else going on. You know, people sort of forgot about me a bit because I kept to myself to focus on myself, and I didn't have anything going on. And the thing is, whilst everyone went to university, whilst everyone went and moved into careers, whilst everyone was going and doing this social stuff, I didn't have university. I didn't go get a job and work with people. You know, I spent my time on the markets. I didn't really build my social skills like that. Didn't have much of a social life. You know, I was struggling. I was like in silence a bit, to be honest. And it was tough. It was tough for a bit. And it were a weird spot. I'm down in this office. You know, I'm learning. I'm learning branding. I'm learning Facebook ads. I'm learning email marketing. I'm learning search engine optimization. I'm starting at the top, like really learning it all. And you know, I'm losing a bit of money. I'm making a bit of money. I'm implementing it in real life, and it's like every skill that I unlock, every nugget of information I can get, it's like another layer of income. Like it's like another grand a month in sales, and another 2 grand a month in sales, another 3 grand a month in sales, and I'm just seeing that consistent growth. You know, one day I'm killing it, next day I'm doing shit, and I'm thinking like, oh, what am I doing? I'm messing up. I'm seeing that these ups and downs, but I'm just like, right, I need to make this work, because the problems that I had in my personal life, like I wanted to hurry up and start living my life, right? And I needed it to be in a sort of self-sufficient place so I could start doing that. So I was putting a lot of pressure on it just so I could get it to a level where I could just start doing some normal stuff again, and I didn't have to live like that, right? And you know, I could go down the path that I wanted to go down. Then I discovered trade shows. This was a very big moment for me. I used to watch these American trade shows on YouTube. You know, like Ben Kicks and all these type of guys, when they used to go to these sneaker cons and this type of thing, and I would see them making 10, 20, 30 G's in a day, and I thought to myself, wow. You know, I'd never heard or seen money like that in my life. You know, it's different in America. Never ever seen money like that in my life. And I used to watch these guys on YouTube, and they used to take hundreds of grand's worth of stock, and there used to be people buying in cash all over the place, and they used to have these things that I had never seen before. That's what motivated me to start getting more shoes in. So I started buying more stuff. A couple of years before this, well, when I first really started getting into the buying and selling and started the brand, I went to a trade show in Liverpool called Laces Out. And it was more of like a Adidas. They call them Adidads. So these guys who wear like Stone Island and Adidas Sambas, like football hooligan types. It was mostly like that, but there was some Jordans and stuff like that I remember seeing. And I was just looking at the prices, and I saw people were making money. This stuff were expensive, and I thought it was a pretty cool place to go because I were into shoes and clothes and all this type of stuff. So the next show I did, I took my own stall. I bought a load of sale stuff off like sneakers and stuff. Shittest shoes ever. I remember my stall were like, I'd gaps in it because I didn't have enough stock, but I bought 2 tables, right? And I did 200 quid in sales, you know. I went with my brother, 200 quid in sales, no profit at all. But I saw other people made money. I saw other people with stacks of cash, you know. I went around the room, I was trying to talk to people, nobody wanted to talk to me. But I realised other people were making money, so I knew there was money in there, but I was doing something wrong. So I thought to myself, like, right, I'm going to go to the next one. I went to the next one, and boom, £2,700 in sales in a single day, right? I took loads more stuff. I went with my friend, logo t-shirts, all this type of shit, right? £2,700 in a day. Now, that's not the most money in the world. To me at the time, it was like winning the fucking lottery, right? It was the most money I've ever earned in my life. I will never feel richer than earning that £2,700. And what it did to my mindset, this was a bit before I really started scaling online, to be honest. But this is where the trade shows started, at least. I was really thinking to myself, like, wow, if I can earn 2,700 quid in a day, I can do 10 grand. I can do 15. What if I can do 15 grand? Like it broke the limiting belief, right? And the thing that I noticed at these trade shows, you know, everyone I do in these different areas, Liverpool, Manchester, London, Glasgow, Newcastle, I'd noticed what the other sellers were doing, and again, unprofessional. It was like the platforms, it was like eBay, it was like Vinted, it was like Depop, right? Shit quality stand, no prices on the stuff, bad customer service, you know, you're going behind his fucking stuff in his face and drinking a beer, right? And you're trying to buy something off him and get the size. They're slow to deal with, they're giving you the stock and they're giving it in a fucking Asda bag, right? None of them take card, cash only, just bullshit. So I noticed all these problems, and every single time I'd go and I'd try and fix these, you know, I'd take a cash machine, I'd take a card machine, I ended up taking Klarna, I'd take custom bags, I'd take more staff, I'd take more stuff, I'd get the biggest stall, I'd get custom tags made, I'll put the prices on, more logos, better customer service, custom mats. Even one time I took 2 Chesterfield sofas, I bought a 15-inch TV for it, a PS5 for people to sit down on, custom rugs, a coffee table, a plant, neon lights, 6 people, 8 people, right? And, you know, I noticed all the other sellers would then start adding the bits that I added, but the problem is they were copying my last show, right? So every show I was adding more things. And, you know, it got to a point when I was doing everything better. I was investing real money in these shows, but, you know, I would do them and it'd be 8 grand in a day, it'd be 10 grand in a day. You know, I went to London, I made 10 grand in a day one time, and I was like, wow. Me rich. You know, I'm getting paid off this. I couldn't believe it. You know, my biggest show day was £19,000. £19,000. In less than 2 years later, I went from making £200 in a day to £19,000 in a single day. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it just by sticking at it. And, you know, I'm selling a lot of stock at this point. I'm selling a lot of stuff, and I needed a new space again. It got to a point when I'm selling a lot of orders through the website, but I don't have the room for it. So everything's stacked up in bags on top of each other, right? And I'm selling stuff online, and it's like I'm selling something for 60 quid, and then I've got to cancel the order. And when I cancel the order, it's like you're just going on your phone and you're tapping, oh, drain £60 out my bank account, drain £70, and then the next day I'd be finding something different, and then I'd find the original item, and I'm like, fuck, this is costing me money. I did a quick maths, I'm cancelling 4 orders a week. It's costing me £500 a month to be in this place. I'm stressed out my fucking mind. I don't have the space. I'm like, well, if I had to take up the 2 offices I've now got in the same building, and I take that £600 I'm losing, then I can spend more money on the rent. So I asked my landlord. I said, I need an upgrade, right? And he said, oh, I haven't really got anywhere. And I said, really, you haven't got anywhere? I said, yeah, well, we've got some storage space. And he took me around back of the building. And, you know, it was like under a 200-year-old mill. He took us around the back of this street, went underground, and it was like a massive 20-foot roller shutter, one entrance, one way down the street, and I'm just seeing it and I'm thinking security. Then you get to the next part and it's a massive 20-foot, same height, rolling gate with a padlock on, and then it's a double-decker door, a full metal door that you slide a big metal bar across and you lock with padlocks at both sides. You take the bar off, you open the doors, then you've got another roller shutter. This shutter you pull up and it's just the size of a door. Then you've got the door. You open the doors for the unit, and it was just like a long hall like that. And I saw it and I was like, fuck, I can make 100 grand a month out of here. I can be doing £1 million a year out of here. Because it had the space, it had the distribution, right? At the time, I didn't realise there were no windows. You know, I'm drunk with success, right? I'm making fucking silly money. Getting too excited, I'm moving fast. Gotta move fast. So I'm like, Gilia, let's get down here. It's got the space, it's got the potential. So I'm thinking, like, I can set up a studio in here, I can do this. There's a private office bit, and, you know, it's secure. There's security with the main thing. And the reason why I didn't want the windows is because people break in through the windows. This type of stock that I'm selling, you're not going to have this problem with a normal business, but when you're selling like super high value stock, got to be careful, man. Got to be careful. I was truly paranoid. If you're selling normal stuff or a small amount of stock, don't worry. Or if you have got a secure place, but, you know, where I was situated at the time, got to be careful. Got to be careful. So that's why I went down there. And you know, a few months later, I've got £250,000 worth of stock in there, like retail price. So if I sold it all that day, it'd be 250 grand. I probably got about 180 in it, something like that, 170, 190, around that amount. And less than 3 to 5 people knew about this spot. Nobody knew about it. Nobody knew how much money I was making. I was driving a piece of shit van. I was wearing cheap clothes, following the same principles, buying assets, not buying liabilities, right? Super locked in. I'm, you know, blasting ecom properly. I'm building organic retention systems. I'm doing email marketing. I'm building out the SEO. I'm using, you know, I've got a full-time member of staff. I'm doing everything. Everything I can, learning loads of things. And I went from, you know, 20k a month, but I'm doing 50, 40, 30k months consistently, right? You know, it'd be 50k in Q4 and it'd go down to maybe 25 in Q1, but then it'd sit around on average probably about 40k, right? Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Just having that money coming in daily, like going on holiday and then just seeing that money coming in daily. There's no better feeling. No better feeling. You know, it's something you've self-built, and it's that it gives you confidence, right? It gives you confidence. That's the main thing about making money for yourself. Once you start, even if it's a side hustle, and you get out of that like struggling for money, you're a new person. You're more confident. You look at life differently. You're not reluctant to do things. You've got a pep in your step. Is that even a word? You know, you're more confident about yourself. You've got more aura. You instantly got more aura, to be honest. Right, you're walking around like a new man. It's like that, you know, do you ever get a haircut and train chest on the same day? You know, you train push and you get a fresh trim. Like that feeling of like, wow, powerful when you combine the two. And you know, maybe you even like get a new jacket. So you've got a new jacket or a new t-shirt, you've got a pump and you've got a fresh trim. That's how you're feeling, but every day, right? So, yeah, unbelievable aura changes. And I'm waking up excited every day because ultimately I'm seeing the results of my work. I'm getting better, I'm getting fitter, I'm making more money. You know, I'm really like, I'm thinking, is this even real? And you can't beat that feeling. You know, just imagine waking up excited to go to work every single day. You know, I've been in situations before when I've hated my fucking life. I've been dreading the next day. I've been dreading Monday coming up. So to be enjoying work every day, going to bed excited for the next day, like it's a great feeling, man. You live your life completely differently. That's what can happen when when you've got a good business going on, right? Not always like that, but it sometimes gets like that. The flood came. Then the flood came. I'm not trying to over dramatize this like it was some fucking, you know, great thud that people needed to take rescue and refuge from, right? But it almost fucks me because I was at the gym, 15 minutes, super heavy rain. The rain came through this 200-year-old mill and it just destroyed everything. Right, well, not majority, about 30 to 40%. By the time when everything was fresh, it looked like everything was fucked. And it just came from the top to the bottom and just destroyed loads of stock. And the problem that it had, it wasn't just the stock being water damaged, but it was actually the fact that it meant that I could no longer trade out of there. You know, it would have been foolish for me to stay down there. I couldn't operate a business from there anymore. And the thing is with a business, you can't just turn it off and just, well, I'll put it on pause and I'll pick it back up next month. No, you've got customer orders, you've got the consistency, you've got your SEO, you've got your paid advertising accounts. You can't put it on pause, right? You've got to keep it going. You've got to keep it going for cash flow, otherwise you're out of business, right? So you're in this position where I'm about to come on to Q4. It's the start of Q4, but you know, I'm on track to do 60 grand next month. I couldn't stay because I might lose everything if it happens. Everything I've worked for, all this sacrifice, all that time I spent struggling, you know, everything I did, I'm gonna lose everything if I stay down here. I've got the potential to. I had to move fast. Security was a big issue, and the only office available at the time there was not much available at all. People don't take you seriously when you're young, as well, which was very annoying. You know, the rent went from 700 quid a month to 700 quid a month to 4 grand a month. So it was a big jump, but I wanted to build a team. I needed somewhere nice for staff. Like, yeah, I'll work down in the winter dungeon like a weirdo, but if you want staff, you need to be staying somewhere that's workable. 4 grand a month contract, boom. But then I moved into the office. Now I'm like, wow, I need to level things up. I need to get very, very serious here. This is some serious risk now. We're not playing on a small level anymore, and if you're really going to try to push it, like, you need to go hard at it. So That's it. Started doing e-com at a high level. Started really fixing everything. Started doing SEO very hard. You know, at one time we used to rank for, if you searched trainers, Klarna would show up on Google first. If you searched Yeezy trainers, would show up before Yeezy, right? Literally before Adidas would show up. It's not like that now because the site's been rebranded since it was sold and everything. But, you know, we used to rank. And now this was back when shit were popping. So we used to get a lot of traffic for free on Google. You know, I was making these marketing strategies to get organic traffic because the margin wasn't so amazing in the resale products. And that was a lot of the stuff that was on the site. So I was coming up with all these strategies. Email marketing at a high level, SEO, doing organic funnels for the site, doing all the back-end automations, running on Google Ads, spending a lot of money on Google Ads, right? But building out the ecosystem, the branding, the rewards program, the customer service, the conversion rate optimization, the SEO strategy. And I went from, that $250,000 stock, then I had 400 grand in stock, following the same process, built a little mini team, probably 20 grand's worth of equipment in lights and laptops and all this stuff. And look, I don't want to put you off with this, right? This is at a much later stage if you want to take it like that, but all this comes at a time, it comes one piece at a time, and all of a sudden you end up somewhere after a couple of years, right? But we're getting huge site traffic. And when I'm picking up each of these skills, I'm trying to find someone who specializes in it, right? Because what I realized is that if I can, just like I'm arbitraging products, I can arbitrage information, right? If I can find someone who specializes in email marketing, they can teach me about email marketing, and then I can save the months of lost revenue, right? So I'm really starting to piece it together from people, learning business, learning information, and just really doing the same things with an extra few steps, right? The same principles. Buy the money, increase the value, sell in more places. But, as you're trying to grow the business, it just adds a little layer of complexity every time. You don't go from there to there, you do it like this. And eventually you get there, right? That's when everything changed in that office. It was a really good spot. I went on CEO Cast, which is, one of the biggest entrepreneurial podcasts in the UK. Reese Wabara, Lewis Morgan, all these type of guys went on there. I'm not comparing myself to Reese or Lewis, by the way, but I went on it. I did local newspapers, even built my own podcast. I had a guy called Ben Mercer who owns Mercia. Massive brand in JD worldwide. He's done a collaboration with Games. Very, very cool guy. Owns a very, very high level brand. Matt B Customs does custom shoes for people like Ariana Grande, Jake Paul, Kodak Black. Even had an artist called Dave O'Howarth on there, and he's an artist for Premier League football players. Very cool guy. Went to his office and started doing all these things. Did an eBay collab in London. I went from being this small eBay seller, not knowing what to sell, I probably shouldn't say this, but getting accounts banned for being too young, to then getting featured in a collab with eBay in one of the shows in London, right? They printed my face on one of the stands that they did because I was a top seller for a very long time. Top seller at Depop, all these type of things. And yeah, it was a cool feeling, man. It was a cool feeling that a lot went on, and I went on to do $2.5 million in sales. That's in trackable revenue, by the way. Anyone who runs a business like this, you do cash drop-offs, you do the shows, and you make all the sales here, there and everywhere, private sales, B2B sales, Instagram, WhatsApp. It's hard to really truly keep track of everything, so probably much more than that, but trackable revenue, 2.5 million in sales in dollars, right? And just to think, that started from a jacket. Never took any money from a job. Never took money off my parents. Anything like that. Pretty insane. But that is genuinely what you can do. That is what you can do. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's a super easy thing to do, but it can definitely happen. And if you want to keep it at that small scale, you can do that as well. I'm not going to sit here and say it ended the best. It didn't really. I was hacked and ended up fucking my cash flow up a little bit. I was forced to sell the business. I went into some a lot of personal issues that I'm not going to get into on this video or anything like that. But I had a lot of personal problems going on at the time. And yeah, I sold it for a multi-5-figure exit. It wasn't as much as I wanted. It had a lot of potential. I know that might sound good to some people, but ideally when you've got something good and it's got the power, you don't want to. It can be worth a lot more money than that, but it is what it is. But you know what? I'm grateful for the skill, And it's the skills that you want. You're trying to acquire skills, you're trying to acquire knowledge, you're trying to acquire information. That is what you can monetize. That's the power, that's the leverage. You know, looking back, it's pretty simple. It's actually pretty simple stuff, right? This is the 5 steps. Buy for a good price based on market patterns, right? So you identify what products are selling at so that you're able to figure out how much you can buy them for, right? You sell it in a way that adds value to the product, 20 or 30%. You sell on multiple platforms to increase the eyeballs, to sell to more people. You reinvest that money into inventory and education. And then you see what works and you cut what doesn't. That's the whole system right there. That's the blueprint. And it just fucking works. Like, it's simple. You know, you might be thinking that sounds too simple, but it fucking works. It works. That's exactly what I did. That 5-step system right there. So, you know, if you're thinking, can I do this? Like, yeah, you can. Do you need 100 grand in stock? No. Absolutely not. You need a jacket. You need a pair of shoes. You need 100 pounds. Like, you don't need a lot to do this. Take that money, reinvest it, and repeat. Just keep doing that. And I know a million people who've done it in a million different ways as far as things that they're selling. You know, there's opportunity if you go looking for it. So, you know, that's where the story ends. I hope you found some value in that. I hope you can take some nuggets away and just add it onto your own stuff. And, you know, just get started, man. Just get started. You don't need to be an expert at anything. You don't need any secret connections. You don't need loads of money in savings or anything like that. You can get started today. Action over everything. Invest in yourself. That's it. So yeah, I guess I'll see you on the next one. Let's go.